Okay. My audience is on TikTok. That's why I'm always looking there, just waiting for them to turn up. But this is how I permanently save my lives. I do lives every day. So they're all saved on here. Well, the last month or so, but the year before not. Hello. While we're waiting, I'd love you to tell me where you're from. I'm just a mess this morning. I don't know why. I'm just all scattered. I got a million things going on in my head. So I'm going to focus. That's why I'm doing my live right now, because if I'm feeling discombobulated and stressed, I do a live. It always relaxes me. So I love doing these lives. Okay. So where are you from? While we wait, I wait till I get maybe 80 to 100 people before I get going. So it usually takes a couple minutes. Okay. I recognize a few of these names, I think. Texas. Hello, Texas. Muddy in Texas. Is that your real name? Muddy. Muddy. And is it short for something? Where are you from? No, it's not. Okay. I think it's kind of cute, actually. So where are you from? That's what I'm asking people. California. Hi, California. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. I am a pottery potter. So, you mean a potter? Like you do pottery work? Interesting. That's cute. I like that. So where are you? Mississippi, Oklahoma. Abby from Texas. Hi, Abby. Mississippi. That's just fun to say. I remember as a kid, MISSISSIPPI. Even up here in Canada, we were doing that. How do I get my tour? Okay, I'm going to get into the parenting questions. I wait till I get, I've got 100 people here, so let's get going. I'm not usually on at this time, but I'm having a really stressful morning. I've got so much to do. And it's not necessarily stuff I want to do. It's always stressful. So I thought, I know, I'll do a live. Lives always relax me. So this is my meditation. I love doing these. Love talking to you. You're from Nova Scotia. Okay, I know Nova Scotia, fellow Canadian. Anyway, now we're going to get going now. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's bratbusters.com. Oklahoma. Hi, Oklahoma. And you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work. I never watch anything else on parenting or kids. I just never do. This morning, because I don't want to be muddled up with other people's ideas. And plus, if I'm criticizing something, I never want to be criticizing someone. Does that make sense? So yeah, if I see that someone teaches something, automatically I don't want to comment on it. You know what I'm saying? Then it seems kind of rude of me to do that. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. Anyway, this morning I went on this, it was from the 60s. So I thought, okay, I'm safe. It was a child psychologist working with a little boy who was a terror. They didn't know, he probably had ADHD at the time, because you could see he couldn't sit still and he had problems focusing. But at the time, they didn't have that term. Anyway, this kid all the schools were kicking him out. He was 6 years old. And this psychologist said to him, and this was amazing, they wouldn't do this these days, but he said to him, well, I love you. And the little boy looked over like this. Do you love me? Like, he was so unlovable. I just thought, there's a kid who's just screaming for love. But anyway, it just broke my heart the way he looked over at the guy. Anyway, that psychiatrist, freaking brilliant, the way he was wording stuff with this kid and everything. I just loved it. Anyway, and also I want to comment on this. I did a whole video on it recently, but this was something that I saw yesterday. I couldn't get to my desk fast enough to write it down. This young man was saying that he had a wonderful childhood, and he said he was very close to his parents. And he said, I never did anything wrong because I was happy. And that kind of sums up where I'm going with all this. Happy kids don't act out. Like kids who have high self-esteem and they're really close to their parents, they just don't act out. They just don't. So you want to work on your relationship with your child and also setting some boundaries for them, because pride comes from being good and doing the right thing. So you're guiding your children to make good choices. You're not necessarily telling them what to do. It seems a little bit confusing. But anyway, the longer you watch me, the more this kind of makes sense. But you're just guiding your children as a calm leader. You're guiding them to make good choices. That's all we're doing here. That's it. And I want you to be really close to your kids. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. So I'm going back because I'm sure people were asking. So I get dizzy when I scroll backwards. I don't know why. Okay, so let's get going. Parenting questions. I get a lot of toddler stuff on lives, and no one ever really likes my answers with toddlers because I always say, well, they're just crazy. You just don't try and figure them out. Just go with it. They're consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. They don't think before they act, but repeatedly, if you correct them each time, they eventually sort of learn that way. It's more of a knee-jerk reaction. That's how they learn. So they're consistent corrective actions. Because people say, well, why does my toddler do this? Why do they do that? I don't know why they smear poop on the wall. I couldn't imagine doing that. Like they're just fresh human beings. They're going to try crazy stuff. They don't have any context of what the world really is yet. Imagine if you've only ever been in the world for 2 years. Imagine that. And the first year you were just a blob laying on the floor. So imagine, how could you possibly reason things out and, think things through? And they're just not there yet. But they are watching you. They're not listening to you. Those mini therapy sessions with toddlers, total waste of time. They're watching you. They're not listening to you. Okay. Okay, you're having conversations back and forth here, but I couldn't find the original comment, so I can't comment on it. Toddlers are crazy. Yeah, they are. They just are. Well, I always say crazy, but really they're just forming. They're just brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. They're just forming. So if you're trying to make sense out of them, you're going to go crazy. So just go with it. Do you know what I did to make my life easier when my kids were toddlers? I completely childproofed the whole house. So I never had to say no. Everything was like from the waist up. All the plants were up high. Everything was locked. They couldn't get into a toilet. And like I've heard parents say, oh my God, how do I stop my toddler from brushing their teeth with the toilet brush? I'm like, lock the door. How on earth are they getting access to a bathroom? They could drown. They could literally go head first into a toilet and drown. Like there's no way my kids would have had access to a bathroom when they didn't have any common sense yet, right? So yeah, childproof your house. That's the best piece of advice I can give you with toddlers. Childproof your house. You will thank me for that later. If you've got a climber, put bells on things that they will pull over to climb on, or alarms, whatever. There's all sorts of stuff out there that's safety stuff. So I would just put little bells. You can get them super cheap at the dollar store. Just tie them to every chair that they're going to pull over to use to climb with. So just be one step ahead of them. Make your life easier. And then sometimes I don't get a lot of people arguing with me anymore because I've been on here a while now, but Instagram, I'm new on Instagram. They're coming after me like sharks. They hate a lot of stuff I say, and that's okay. What happens is the people who agree with me after a while, they stick, but the ones who hate me, they just leave, and that's okay too. But one of the things that people really had a problem with was if I childproofed, or ignoring tantrums is number one. That's number one where I get flack for, and that's why I talk about it so much. But is when they say if you childproof your house, you're not teaching them how not to touch stuff. By the time they're like 3, they already understand that anyway. My kids weren't precocious because they weren't used to getting into trouble. So when I took them to a non-childproofed house, they were pretty good. They just weren't used to getting into trouble. So yeah, don't worry about that. Just make your life easy at home. Childproof as much as possible. Okay, you used to ask me about how to raise a grandchild. I don't know what's going on there, so I can't answer that one. How to deal with talking back from a toddler? You just ignore it. You ignore the crazy and you reward the calm. So the crazy is all the stuff that you don't like. You just ignore it unless it's something that you have to intervene with. Just mouthing off, like saying silly stuff, I would just say no, and then I would ignore. And I wouldn't even keep saying no because they're going to go, and they're going to keep doing it. No, ignore, no, ignore. They're going to like that repetition because they're controlling you. Think about it. They're controlling you. And that's exciting for a toddler to be able to control their parents. Hey, I can make you get angry. I can make you do this. They're learning their power, right? So that's why they do it. So yeah. They'll pick one bad word, how to get them to stop. You just ignore it. You just say no. And if they keep saying it, if they're like 2 or 1, if they're like really little, you just ignore, you say no, and then you take something away. Consistent corrective action. Take a toy away. So every time they say that, you say, here's the toy's going to go away. Or you can sit there for a second. So you move them, take them away from the fun. It's not time out. That's different. That's go in the corner. You're just moving them. You're temporarily taking them away from the fun. But just you're holding them even. Say no, and then you just hold them there. Do not look at them or talk to them when you're doing that. Super, super important. If you engage with them during this, it's not punishment. It's reward. 16-month-old scratching her newborn sister, keep the newborn safe. That's all. You cannot teach a 16-month-old to respect a newborn. It's impossible. So yeah, they either have that tendency or they don't. This story I'm going to tell, I've told it a million times. My son was 2, and a friend of mine also had a 2-year-old little boy. They were passive little boys, very gentle. They played beautifully. They just weren't aggressive kids at all. Anyway, she had a baby girl, cute, darling little thing, and her sweet little passive, gentle boy behind her back picked the baby up, a brand new baby, picked it up out of the bassinet, threw it in the floor. And he just didn't understand. He thought it's like adult, wait a minute, this thing won't shut up or whatever. It just got on his nerves. So he threw it on the floor. You just have to keep them safe, keep them separate, or supervise them. That's it. What age is timeout recommended? I hate timeout, can't stand it, never did it, never will. I think it's mean and disrespectful. So I never recommend timeout ever. I think it's mean. So you go over there, you're not even worth talking to. You go over there nose to wall and you sit in that corner. Then afterwards, after 5 minutes is up, I'm going to come over and berate you even more about what you did wrong. We're going to have a mini therapy session. I just think it's all negative, 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 negative. If a kid does something bad, say, hey, I didn't like that. I'll tell you what, you're going to have to help me clean or do laundry the next time. Okay? Do you understand? Something like that. And then it's all happy again. You don't drag out the punishment. Timeout is like, you don't know what to do, so you just throw them in a corner. They're not even worth talking to. They're like a dish rag. I can't stand it. I think I went on about that a little bit too much. You know I hate timeout. I hate timeout, and I hate mini therapy sessions where you're discussing all their big feelings and big emotions when they've had a tantrum. God. Talk about mess. Oh, geez, it's such a mess. You just don't do that. Why would cleaning be punishment? Okay, it's a chore. It's generally something people don't like, and it's something that needs doing. It's an action to show they're contributing to the household. It's a good deed. It's something they can have pride in. And even if they enjoy it when they're little, still do it anyway. Or you can do something else. There's a lot. Keep watching. There's millions of different things. I just threw that one out there. But chores are something that they usually like when they're little because they're with you, but as soon as they're good at it, they hate it. So teach them to do chores anyway. Like my kids just had chores to do. They wouldn't have questioned it, and I would never pay for chores. I pinned that video. It became really popular. It's in my pinned videos why they deserve to get allowance, but that has nothing to do with chores. So yeah. Why is therapy session bad? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell the swing story. It's the best example of this that I can come up with. And I think examples are good. The mini therapy sessions with toddlers are a complete waste of time. They're just for you. They're not for your toddler. I know they're trendy, but they tank. Trust me, later on, they tank. They backfire. They will slap you in the face later on. Not the kid, but the whole mini therapy session. It'll come back to haunt you. Anyway, the reason why you don't do it is, I'll tell you in a very good example, the swing story. I know if you've heard this a million times, sorry, but anyway, my son was 2 years old. I took him to the park. There was another mom there. It was just the 4 of us. Me and my 2-year-old, her and her 2-year-old, 2 little boys, 2 swings, 2 2-year-old boys. We were chatting. Hi, how are you? I didn't know her. Hi, how are you? Chatting away, putting our kids on the swing. They both at the exact same time motioned that they wanted the other swing. So we were just, well, let's just switch them. Who cares? We're chatting. Who cares? We go to switch them. They both start crying and having a tantrum at the exact same time, like nuts, right? If they'd waited a millisecond, they both would have been on the other swing. Anyway, like who cares? Anyway, so they start having a tantrum. So instantly we both take our kids to separate benches that we're sitting on. I put my arm out because my son was going to run for the swing. I put my arm out. I just prevented him from running. And then I just looked around at the trees waiting. He's screaming, having a fit. But he knew me. He knew that the sooner that stopped, the better. So I'm looking around, just waiting, no eye contact, no talking to him, no freaking way. So I'm waiting. And then as soon as he stops, I look down and I said, okay, let's go back on the swing. And he toddles off. We're on the swing. That's what you do. Now that was, by the way, I want to say this too. That was a good day. He did have bigger tantrums lots of times. That was just a good day. It's a good example. Anyway, here's the other bench with the other mom. The whole time her son is tantruming, she's talking to him. Now, settle down. Calm down, mommy. And I'm like, oh my God, that poor kid. She's dragging it out because attention is tantrum food. So anyway, she keeps feeding it. Then about 20 minutes later, he finally calmed down. Then he's doing the hiccup cries. And then she's discussing everything that just happened. Now, I would have put you on the other swing she gives him a therapy session. a freak. He's 2 years old. So for 10 minutes, she's giving him a therapy session. Finally, after 30 minutes, my kid's tired. He wants to go home. So we're just leaving, and her kid finally gets on the swing. They're both a mess. They both look so distraught. She had dragged it all out. It's for you. It's not for them. I don't know what she was thinking. Anyway, so that's a very good example. Her child was a mess. She was a mess. By the time he got on the swing, they were a mess anyway. So yeah, she had dragged all that negative out. She'd given it all the attention that it shouldn't have had. I completely ignored it. My son knew me. He knew that I reward the calm, not the crazy. Any attention is reward. You don't go into that. You do not need to validate every single thought and feeling and emotion. That is garbage. Absolutely ridiculous. When they're having a fit, you do not need to validate all those little emotions. They will eventually learn, hey, wait a minute, this ain't working. Maybe I'll stop doing it. This is where I get most flack, is you do not need to validate every single emotion. Do you know why? About 20 years ago, I said, this validating all these thoughts and emotions and big feelings and all this crap. I said, do you know what's going to happen? 20 years from now, it's going to be a bunch of snowflakes who need everything validated, who are very sensitive to everything. And they're just, they're snowflakes. They're entitled. And, they'll be getting you'll have like a young person getting on a bus. You didn't validate my feelings. Well, I'm just a bus driver, lady. They're very entitled. That's what you're raising. If you're going to validate every single thought and emotion and feeling, you do not need to validate all those. Of course, you need to validate probably 99% of them, but that one, no. They need to learn how to process that all on their own. Boy, I get flack on this. What else can I say? How well, is there a better way to explain this? I don't know. I mean, and I also said mental health would be a real issue too, because you're not toughening them up. You gotta, like my son's sitting there, he's learning how to process this on his own. He's thinking, this is never going to work with my mother. Maybe I'll find a better way. I know when I this is what they eventually think through. When I calm down, there's reward. I'm going to get on that swing as soon as I calm down. And once I do, it's going to be all fun again. You see, that other kid, what the hell did he learn? What did he learn? Nothing. Anyway, I get frustrated by this because I still see it's still popular. It's trendy right now because it makes the mom look good, the therapy sessions. It's all about the mom. You don't see dads doing it very often. It's appealing to the mom. It makes them feel like they're nurturing. You're actually doing them a disservice. You're not allowing them to process this on their own. Okay. Whew. But which kid was happier at the end? Which mom was happier? There's the payoff here. Which kid had a better half hour at that park? Which kid? The one who had all of his thoughts and feelings and emotions validated, or the one who was ignored until he was calm and then got back on the swing? Think about it that way. You want happy kids, right? Can we ask questions in the box? I don't know what the box is. I don't really understand TikTok. I'm just on here. But I've never been in a live, so I don't know how to be in a live. I just know how to do one. So yeah, don't ask me questions about technology because I'm 62. I'm 62 years old. I'm surprised I'm even on here. And scrolling, I just found out about double tapping. Why double tapping is a light. Isn't that harder than just hitting the heart when you're doing, anyway. How do you deal with defensiveness? Defensiveness comes from, okay, you're defensive when you think it's not okay to not be perfect. That's where it comes from insecurity and low self-esteem. That's where defensiveness comes from. Like, for example, when people are always challenging me on parenting stuff, I don't really defend that because I know what I'm doing. Like, that's okay. And I love it when people challenge me because they're learning, right? They're coming out with, well, wait a minute, what so-and-so says, and this psychiatrist says, a lot of my clients are psychiatrists and child psychologists. So it just comes from a place of, you know what you're doing. Do I think I know everything? God, no. Does anybody? God, no. I just know what's worked with thousands of kids, and my methods have worked. And they just feel right to me because you want to raise kids who are happy, who have high self-esteem, productive, self-disciplined, right? But yeah, you just do what feels right. And I've been doing this for so many years, but people who are defensive, they don't feel right about what they're saying or doing. And kind of contradicts what I said, because I said that defensiveness. Yeah, it comes from not being allowed to be incorrect. God, I don't feel like I said that right at all. My brain's scattered this morning. That's why I'm on here. I came on here to relax because I was stressed out about, I've got so much on my plate right now. I got stressed out and this relaxes me. And here I can't even make sense of what I was saying. It did make sense, does it? Uh, that's like if someone says, well, can you explain yourself? And if I'm working with a client, or if it's a constructive, can you explain yourself? I'll go, sure, here's why I think that. But then they say, then it's sort of, if they put a different tone, like, I don't need to explain everything that I'm thinking or doing. I don't feel that need to do that. Like, oh, I know, being vegan. Why are you vegan? And if you can tell when people are confronting you on it, and I'm not pro-vegan, I just happen to be vegan. So I say, I don't need to explain myself to you. It always throws them off. They're like, oh, why on earth would you go vegan? I don't need to explain myself to you. I would never defend that. Do you know what I mean? That's a really good comeback if someone puts you in that defensive role or tries to. So that's one of my favorite ones, is that, why on earth did you go vegan? I don't need to explain myself to you. Oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, I'm old. I can get away with this stuff. Okay. I do this, makes so much. I respond wrong when my kids do something wrong. Okay. So you're defensive with your kids, like you get upset when they do something wrong. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're talking about? That's the mom guilt? Yeah, I deal with that every single day. I deal with mom guilt every single day. I say to my client, can you just toss that and let's move forward? Because once you move forward and you're doing a really good job and everything's going great, that guilt, you'll just look back on it and see, that was just a learning time. I didn't know what else to do. Let it go. Stop beating yourself up. You know, parenting's the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, and yet everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you. Go easy on yourself. Geez, there's a learning curve to this. I've been doing this for 51 years. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11. That was 51 years ago. So it took me 51 years to get here. And you're just learning this, right? So go easy on yourself. Boy 13 needs help with self-esteem. Best way to help him with that. Yikes. 13-year-old boy. Hormones flying. Testosterone is a very, very powerful. I think estrogen and testosterone are very different in the way they affect teenagers. But yeah, self-esteem with a 13-year-old boy. Work on your relationship. Like, make sure that he tells you everything, because they tend to get within. Whenever he's doing a computer game or a video game or something, try and sit there and try and get involved with him as much as possible. You'll find that information comes out that way. Get them talking, in other words. The more they talk, the easier their life will be. If they keep everything bottled up inside, that's the number one thing I see with teenage boys, is they tend to bottle stuff up. Try to get him to join as many different things as possible. Spread himself as thin as possible. He'll have access to more different types of people, and he'll click with different people, because you can do as much as you can be a great parent, everything can be going great with you and your kid, but as they get older, they're more influenced by other people. And then once they're adults, those other people have the hold on them, right? And that, like partners, that's the way it goes. So you want to build them up as much as possible when they're young, so that they make good choices and, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, get your relationship cemented. You want him talking, telling you everything. And plus, the two most important skills with parenting teenagers are my thing, they're my favorite age, is there's two most important skills when you're parenting teenagers. One is listening. You listen to understand. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. So you listen, they tell you everything, and then just shut up. If they want your advice, they will ask for it. So just listen and shut up. Boy, is that hard for me to do. I did it, but it's really hard to do. And then the second one is negotiating. You negotiate everything. You've got to give teenagers a say in how their life goes, okay? And you can negotiate. Say, no, I don't like that. I'll tell you what, if you stop doing that, what do you want from me? You see, it's like that. Give and take, give and take. And be prepared to give a lot more than you take. Parents say, but it's not fair. When is parenting fair? It's give, 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 give. Take, give, 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 especially with teenagers. My God, give, 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 take. That's the way it is. So just accept that. What about older kids and tantrums? The reason they're still having tantrums is there has to be a payoff. Well, there could be two different reasons. Children who are abused or go through trauma will continue to have tantrums. That's a different thing. But if they're just having tantrums because things aren't going their way, it says to me that because it works, or it has in the past. or you're not consistent. It means that they don't, like kids past the age of 3 to 3.5, especially 3 3/4, they stop doing what doesn't work. They just do. They only do what works. They're not like us. We're very habitual. We keep doing stupid things over and over again, expecting different results. I do it all the time. As adults, I mean. So yeah, but kids don't. If something ain't working, they change it. They try something else. It's just because they're not formed yet. So yeah, it means it's working. There's got to be a payoff. You're not consistent. That's what that says to me. Or there's some trauma. If there is, you want my help with trauma, I deal with all that stuff in coaching only. Okay. Okay. Preteen girl is so difficult to talk to and to discipline. Preteen girl, 9 to 12 is, I call it tween. That's in Australia, they call them tweens. That's where I raise my kids. And it's preteen here. So I keep calling them tweens, but preteen, tweens, same thing. 9 to 12 years old. Difficult to talk to and to discipline. Okay. Use my behavior board. It's free on my website, bratbusters.com. Use the behavior board and put something like this. Because you want to work on your relationship, right? Look at it like a bonding board. You're not disciplining. You bond with them before you discipline when they get older, okay? It's like with little kids, you discipline to get respect. With teenagers, you got to get some respect before you discipline. So don't even think about the discipline because you said so difficult to talk to. That's my focus. Discipline comes later. That's maybe week 3. The first 2 weeks, you want to focus on bonding and strengthening your relationship. Get respect, okay? So on the behavior board, you put down something like this. Put down dirty clothes go in the hamper. I always use that as an example. Dirty clothes go in the hamper and nowhere else. And then you say, what do you want from me? What do you want me to start doing or stop doing? The reason I put that on her board was it has to be something not personal and not something that you've been fighting over. So make it something easy for her to do. What you're doing is you're building reciprocity. So you're building respect. You're asking her for something like, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper, but what do you want from me? And let her ask something kind of big. She might say, get off my back and stop nagging, and say, that would be wonderful, but that's probably impossible. So let's make something easier. So you get, use humor, try and, but yeah, you want to build reciprocity with, as they get older, especially. Okay. Are you surprised I know a big word like that, reciprocity? I was doing a speech years and years ago. I hate speeches. I'm only good with an audience. I can speak to 1,000 people so long as there's back and forth. If I have to stand there and deliver a speech, I did a TEDx once. It was okay, but it's not my thing. I realized then that's not my thing. I need the back and forth, like here. And anyway, and I was trying to say the word reciprocity. What did I come up with? Oh God, it was something so recyclables or something. I could not for the life of me think of the word. Finally, people started yelling it out. I said, when you give something you to get it back. And they said, you mean reciprocity? Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. But that's not the most embarrassing thing I ever did. I was doing I think it was a TV spot. I used to do a lot of live TV spots, where they morning shows and news, they interview you as a parenting expert. And it was something about deprecation. So you're depriving them of something. So I said, that's like, deprecate. And I called it, you can guess what I called it. And I'm pretty sure on live TV. So that's why I kept getting called back, because I was funny. I wasn't trying to be. But yeah, I was trying to say deprecation. And I said the other, it was kids watching, so I don't want to say it. Anyway, how embarrassing. Well, anyway. I'm not surprised of your extensive vocabulary. You're authentic and so very wise. Yeah, I'm very strict about, I don't like to talk technical, because if I try and sound impressive, I will end up looking like a fool. I'm going to give myself away eventually. I never went to university. I just don't like talking fancy. My whole world is very casual, funny, goofy. And, but yeah, if I try and sound impressive, yeah, I'll make a fool out of myself. Guaranteed. Where are you from? I'm from Vancouver and also Australia. I was 28. I married an Australian, and then I moved to Australia for 20 years. My mother got ill back here in Canada, came back. She died in my arms a few years later. It was beautiful. So, but yeah, I was raised in Canada, but I have a lot of Aussie in me now too. There's a lot of different cultures because I never had any North American friends. I didn't know anyone there from North America. It was only Poms, Kiwis, and Aussies were my friends over there for 20 years. Isn't that funny? You'd think I would have met some North Americans, wouldn't you? Never did. It was all, I was very integrated. So I love Australia. I love Canada. I love the US. I'm very comfortable in all three countries, but I'm just Canadian and Australian. The northern accent, yeah. But if I'm talking to a southerner, if I've got a southern client right now, I'll say, I'm sorry if I start to sound like you. I'm not mocking you. I love southern accents, and I pick them up like, just don't know why. I just find them like butter. They're just gorgeous. Okay, but I pick that up really quickly. Okay, how do I get my almost 2-year-old to stop throwing rocks at other kids at the park? Well, that's the violent side of them you really want to stop. I do have a course on that, a little mini niche course on my website, bratbusters.com, if you're interested. I just have toddler courses on there right now. My big course starts on Sunday. I'm very excited, and that's not out to the public yet. But that's just like, I've just got a few people going through that the first time. Anyway, what you do is it's consistent corrective action, and you watch them like a hawk. It's going to be hard work though. You're going to have to watch them, and you do not let them pick up a rock. And you say no, and you have to intervene every single time. So it's hard work. People want the easy road. They want to be able to tell them something. You cannot tell them something. Toddlers are not listening. They are watching, and it's all about actions, consistent corrective actions. They learn through repetition. They do not learn through words. Okay, my 5-year-old girl ignores me and just looks away and smiles, drives me crazy. Okay, she's just snubbing you. And that means that if it drives you crazy, that's why she does it. You've already answered your own question. If she ignored me, okay, so she's ignoring you. Maybe you could ask me when, like if she has to do something and she ignores you, or if you're just talking to her and she ignores you. But if she has to do something, you tell her to do something, then she ignores you, I would take action. But if she's just ignoring you generally, I would ignore it. That's attitude. It just means she doesn't respect you. You gotta work on your leadership skills. That's just a pure reflection of her lack of respect for you. That's all. So work on your leadership skills. That's all I teach. Start with my behavior board. It's free on my website. It teaches you how to give respect to get it. Everyone wants the respect, but you got to give it first. You got to show them how this is done. I remember when I was working with, I used to volunteer and mentor troubled teens. And, oh, is this too much? Let me think. Yeah, it's too much for here. It's a coaching conversation. Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of crisis work, and I don't discuss crisis on TikTok. I keep it light. But yeah, that's too much. But it was a really good lesson, and how if they do ignore you and snub you, it was a good story, but I can't tell that one. It was too much. It was a good one. Okay. Do you have any tips for extremely emotional 12, 13, 14-year-olds? Yeah, just wait it out and don't react. As soon as they get emotional, disengage. And don't say something like this. If you're talking to them, they get highly emotional. You do not say, I'll talk to you when you calm down. That's an escalator. You want to learn how to de-escalate their emotions. And you do that by saying, I'll tell you what, let's discuss it after dinner, okay? And then you disengage. So yeah, it sounds like you could potentially be feeding it. Are you highly emotional? I'm picking up there that you might be. I'm not psychic, but it just feels like if they're extremely emotional, it means that you must be feeding it somehow. Maybe you're like that too. So yeah, disengage, calm down. Yeah. We all are emotional. Is that it? Yeah. I am too, but it's funny when I'm disciplining, it's all business. I'm an extremely goofy, emotional. I lead with my heart, not my head. But when I'm disciplining, it's all head, no heart. Like it's just, I don't even think about feelings. Not at all. It's business transaction. Yeah, I didn't like what you just did. I'll tell you what. Here's what we're going to do. So it's like that. It's just, I remove all my emotions when I'm disciplining, because if you allow emotions to come into it, it's going to tank. So yeah, it's just a business trend. To me, discipline is a business transaction. It's fast, get it out of the way. As soon as it's done, do you want to play a game? Then I'm back to all hard again. in my head, like when I'm just all in my head, it's very quick. And my my son used to say, if mom ever whispers, run, because I get real calm if I'm disciplining. I would just go something like this. Okay, I didn't like that. And they would go, oops. Like that's all it took. It usually just took a look. My mom had the mom's look. I had it too, but they were a little bit different. This was my mom's look. She always seemed to be sitting when she did it. I don't know why, but this was my mom. If I got that look, I would just, she never even did anything. It was just mom's look. She never disciplined. It was just mom. I hated that. It was her disapproval because I respected my mom. My look was, this was me. I had a little bit different, but I'd just go, really? And they go, oops, sorry, mom. That's all it took. So you just got to work on getting your leadership skills cemented. Be calm when you're disciplining. The rest of the time, you can be crazy best friends. That's what I was. I was a very goofy mother. My mom always said, how on earth do they respect you so much? You're such a goofball. And I said, yeah, but when needed, I'm not. I'm like instantly, excuse me. So, okay. How do you teach an almost 4-year-old stranger danger? My daughter talks to everyone. Yeah, that's about the sex talk. That's sex education stuff. You talk about body parts and you say no one can talk about them, this and that. And also say, if it's someone strange, it doesn't mean that they're dangerous, but you don't know if they are or not. Okay. So, and also, I won't go into it because this is more serious stuff, but I've dealt with a lot of kids who have been abused. And so we teach them about, it's very rarely a stranger that's going to do something to them. Rarely. It's usually someone they know. And there's grooming that takes place. They don't just get touched. It's grooming. It's talking about stuff. It's, if an adult takes a real interest in them, watch out. Because why would an adult do that? Like, if they start talking to them and everything. But yeah, just say, not all strangers are bad. They're not all good either. You don't know. So this is how you treat strangers. And then just go with that. I used to tell my kids when the internet, they were just young when the internet came out. And so I said to them, if you're talking to someone on the internet, and you don't get a video, like a live video, like I told them this when they were teenagers, just assume it's a fat, old, ugly guy sitting there in his underpants. I went on to greater detail than that. But I said, the picture that you see is not going to be what's behind that. But yeah, so I was very blunt. I would rather scare my kids with information than have them be vulnerable. So I did tell I probably over-informed, but I would rather have done that, and I kept them safe. So I was talking to a mom, my daughter's dance school, and we had, all of our girls were like 8 or 9. And she said she was shocked because she goes, my daughter went to a friend's house and they were talking about something that she thought was just so racy, and it wasn't at all. And I said, well, she goes, oh, my daughter didn't know anything about that. I was worried about traumatizing her. And I said, you mean you haven't had any talk with her about body parts? And she goes, oh, no, I want her to stay young and innocent. And I said, I'll tell you what, I would rather scare them with information than, the most damaging thing that can happen is if someone takes advantage of them. But she didn't agree. She just wanted to keep her daughter precious and safe, which is, lovely, but you're not really setting them up for the real world. Plus, I told my kids everything. They didn't think anything of it. Like, they were just so used to hearing it. I talked about everything, drugs, sex, everything, online stuff. And it was awkward sometimes. And I kept it age appropriate, but I'd rather over-inform so they were prepared for whatever came their way. I did, no, I can't tell that story. It's too, because there's kids on here, so. But anyway, yeah, it's okay. I'd rather over-inform than under-inform. And you know what? When I always talk to, like when I was talking to about sex with my kids, I always included feelings with it. And I said, it should always be someone that you care about. It should never just be a one-night stand. It should always be someone that you care. You don't have to be in love. You don't have to be married, but it should be someone that you care about. So I always included feelings. And I said, what you see online is mechanical. It's not real. It's not all mechanical. And I said, that is not what it's all about, because that's how they're going to learn, right? It's probably a bit much here if there's kids on here. But anyway, I felt that was safe enough to say if there's kids watching. Okay, how'd you learn all your parenting services if you never went to university? Well, because I worked with kids for 51 years. And I volunteered as a mentor, as an aide in homes, schools, hospitals, everywhere. Like everywhere there was kids in trouble, I went. I was just drawn to that. So I learned my own way because every time someone told me what to do, I never did it anyway. I was good at connecting with kids. I just was. I think I was just kind of born to do this. And then when I was mentoring troubled teens, they told me to start a business. They said, you got to teach people what you do, Lisa. And they said, because they'd never heard anyone talk to them like I did. And they said, you've got to teach this. And so I said, okay. And I didn't really think much of it. And then I went to career camp about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I went to career counseling and I spent $5,000 for 5 days, 8 hours a day. And it was intense. And it was just to find what I'm meant to do. And they said, this is really weird because there isn't even a job for this. And they said, usually we get 2 to 5 different careers that you can go for. And they said, 1, parenting expert or parenting something, consult. They didn't have a word for parenting coach, but they said, teach parenting. Everything funneled into that one career. And that's what the teenager told me to do. So obviously, I think sometimes you're just born to do something. I really do. I suck at a lot of things. I've only taught 3 things in my life. Like I've been doing this for 17 years, and I taught fitness and sewing. And but yeah, 17 years ago when I started this, the first year was kind of rough because you can know something. Like I just get all this stuff. It just, it's just in my DNA now. But teaching it is different. And the first year I was a parenting coach, I didn't have a behavior board. I was teaching them what I did, which just it's too much. It's too much to throw at people all at once. And then about a year in, they were still getting results, but nowhere near what I thought they should be. Then I invented the behavior board and put the parents on it. Changed everything. I don't know if anyone else does it. If they do, I invented that. You put the parents on the behavior board because it teaches you give respect to get it. So I truly believe I was just meant to do this. I really do. I'm not big into all that spiritual stuff, but I just know in my DNA, I know I was meant to do this. Anyway, but yeah, I was going to become a child psychologist. I think I just told this story earlier today. And, but yeah, in my first class, you have to do prerequisite classes to before you get in or something. I can't remember. It was back in 1980, probably. Anyway, so I took this course. A week later, they kicked me out because I was asking too many questions. I just thought what they were talking about was garbage. It just made no sense at all. It was about outguessing, outsmarting kids. I don't do any of that. I just thought it was sort of this hierarchy, like you're in charge. You are the leader, but it was more of the authority, my way or the highway. I'm sure they don't teach that now, but it was just garbage. Anyway, so I kept arguing with the teacher. They kicked me out because all the other students kept asking me questions. So yeah, they kicked me out. And then I thank God I never became a child psychologist because I would have been under that umbrella and oh my God, it would not have been me at all. Anyway, so that's how I started this. And they always say follow your passion, but I didn't. I was told to do this. Like those teenagers told me to do this. So I didn't follow it. I should have been doing this long before I did, but I didn't. Well, plus I think you got to raise your own kids first because that's a big part of it. If you haven't lived with teenagers, you can't teach parenting. Like you got to live with teenagers. That's a whole other level. Living with teenagers, seeing how they develop and what they go through and how to change your parenting. And, anyway, but yeah, I love it. But yeah, I was told to do this. And then clients, of course, then you just realize, wait, this is working for me. So you can't just follow your passion. You've got to follow what other people tell you to do too. The world will tell you what to do. But I did start out doing crisis work with teenagers. That was how I kind of started my business. And I remember I used to do a lot of TV, like live spots. Anyway, this one day, this kid had, done himself in, teenager. So they called me last minute. Can we send a TV crew out and interview you about how to prevent this? And I said, sure. I don't really want to be in this all negative stuff all the time. Anyway, so they sent a TV crew out and it was the top of the news, 6 o'clock news. And they said, and now we're going to go to, I don't know what they said exactly, but they called me the crisis queen. And that's when I stopped doing that. I thought, no, I don't want to be the crisis queen. I want to be the prevention person. I don't want to be the queen. I want to be the prevention. I want to prevent all that. I don't want to discuss that negative stuff. I want to prevent it. But yeah, so I still do crisis work, but I would rather prevent you ever getting there because I know what leads there. So that's what, if you're going to take advice from someone, make sure they have 2 criteria. They have finished the job with their own kids. They've lived with teenagers. And also they have to have worked with hundreds of other kids with all sorts of challenges, because it's massively experience based. If I haven't seen it, I've heard of it. The odd time I've thrown off, I would say this year was the first time in years something came at me that I'd never heard before. And it was really fascinating. The most phenomenal parents I've ever met, smartest parents. But it was something really different. But it's very rare because I've seen it. I've seen most of it. I was going to say I've seen everything. No, obviously I haven't. But I'd seen enough to know how to, move forward with it. Anyway, that was a huge speech. Sorry about that. 3-year-old wants to control everything that everyone does. Advice. Oh, well, they're in charge, or they think they can be. That at 3 years old, they often find their power. And it's a bit of a tell on what kind of parent you are too. That's usually the pleaser parent raises that. So are you the pleaser parent? You're trying to negotiate with them. You're trying to reason with them all the time. You're validating all their feelings. That's the pleaser. It's really trendy right now. So that usually raises that. It means that they want to, they're just finding their power. They want to be in charge. Okay. So yeah, just, you don't want to be the authority. The authority is the be all, I know everything, my way or the highway. You don't want to do that. The pleaser is, let's validate everything you ever do. That you want to be the leader. The leader guides them to make good choices. You correct them when they make a mistake. The rest of the time, you're best friends, but you're in charge. So yeah, just switch that around a little bit. Okay, in one session with you, affordable is one session. Will it make difference? I'm a low-income stay-at-home mom but need help. Okay, if you buy me one session, just go on my website, see if it's affordable for you. I can't judge that. Anyway, if I only get you for 1 hour, take notes. I put a lot into that 1 hour, but obviously it takes 3 weeks minimum to really start to see a change. But you can still get, oh yeah, bedtime battles is a good one. We can solve that. Stuff like that. But it's setting you up as a calm, strong leader is hard to do in one session, but I can help you deal with a few things. But yeah, most people who buy one session, they take me up for a test drive, then they buy more. If you can't do that one session, I'll still pack a lot in. So that's my promise to you. I will do my best. I work up a sweat when I get someone for an hour because I'm like, God, I got to pack so much in. I want you to get results, and I'm literally sweating if I think I'm only going to get someone for an hour. So I put a lot into that hour, but that's up to you to decide whether or not it's worth it. I can't tell you that. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not into marketing. I can't sell myself. If you feel comfortable with me and you want more and you want personal help, I usually can come up with a few little plans. Okay. Yeah. This one's a tough one because I don't know what kind of parent you are. Urge a teenager to get schoolwork done or let them figure it out themselves and possibly find. No, I don't let them figure it out themselves if they're not doing it. No, I do not. What I do is I say, okay, so I'll tell you what, let's get a system in place where you get your homework done, then you can just get on with fun in life. Okay, so it's just, in other words, it's going to happen. It's got to get done. So every night between 6 and 7, I will hold your phone. But if you need your playlist, you can play that in the background. The phone will just be sitting over here. So I want you to do your schoolwork. And while you're on the computer, the laptop, the screen has to be facing me. Say, let's just get you into this habit of doing that. So in other words, there's not a consequence, but there's an incentive to do their homework. They get their phone back. So something like that. Yeah. Does your sessions handle child grief? Well, yes, that's part of it. That's one of the things that I deal with a lot. Actually, I know a lot about that. My dad died when I was young, and I know exactly how it feels. I remember he was 10 when I got sick, and he was 14. I was 14 when he died. And I can remember everything about it. And I remember what helped me and what hindered me in recovering. So yeah. And, but yeah, I deal with a lot of kids going through grief. No, I don't. I deal with the parents helping their kids because I don't deal with kids anymore. I just deal with parents. So yeah, I have a lot of experience with that. Do you help kids with autism? Autism is only for coaching. That's a specialty. They're all different. I don't generalize with autism, and it's kind of throwing mud at the wall. One session I don't recommend with autism, 3 minimum, because we throw mud at the wall and see what sticks. So the first session, what have you tried? What hasn't worked? And then I give you some other options. Let's throw that mud at the wall. And then the next week we see what stuck and what didn't. So that's why. And I'm no expert with autism. Remember, I'm a parenting coach. I'm just home-based mother. That's what I teach. I teach parenting. So if you have children with autism, I'm assuming that they also have other support systems out there for them, because I can't do all that, but I just help you in the home as a parent. My daughter's dad died. I have guilt and don't know what to do. Yeah, that's coaching. If you want my grief counseling help to help your child and to help you, then that's coaching. It might just be one session. Um, I'm a gluten-free health food vegan, but my poison is Diet Coke and potato chips. And I had a bag of salt and vinegar potato chips, and I can feel my lips peeling off now. You know how you do that? So if you see skin hanging, it's just because I had salt and vinegar potato chips. Okay. I made the behavior board and it is so good. Excellent. It just works, doesn't it? Why does it work? Why do you think that works, the behavior board? Why do you think that works? What's the whole basis behind it? Give respect to get it. It's mutual. Your children deserve to get to have a say in what kind of parent you are. You've got to give respect to get it. You don't just demand it. Yeah, you don't just demand respect. You've got to earn it. You got to work for it. And that's why you're on that behavior board. I love it. I just love it. That when I invented that, it was like, I remember when I first invented that, how on earth am I going to explain this visually? And then I know, I'll just put that, because I never used a behavior board. I thought, I know, I'll put the parents on it. It was like ding, 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 ding. It was just, I loved it. Your girlfriend vegan too? Girlfriend? Well, I'm straight. You mean my partner, girlfriend? No, I'm not gay. Is that what you're talking about? Or am I too old that I don't know what that means and you're laughing at me? That's very possible too. Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story about being straight. It's not it's not a funny story about being straight, but it's just kind of funny. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and I moved when I was 20. I moved downtown. And then when I was 26, I bought my own condo downtown, which was a big deal back in 1986 it was. And it was very gay downtown. It was like the West End, right downtown in Vancouver. That's where all gay people went. It was totally acceptable to be gay. Like there was no problem with it at all. And I love that environment. It wasn't all gay, but I mean, there was a lot of gay people. Here's what was interesting. When I was renting, it was mostly straight and gay, like whatever. But when you buy in the West End back in 1986, the people who were most likely to buy a place were gay. I didn't know that. So anyway, I bought a unit in a 14-unit condo building, and they used to call me the straight one. I was the only straight person in the whole building. So oh, hi, straight one. Oh, hi. So anyway, what a great way to grow up in a city that's inclusive and doesn't judge. It was wonderful. But anyway, so yeah, they called me the straight one. Morning, straight one. Morning. That's what they called me. It was great. Yay, Vancouver. Yeah, just, I mean, I couldn't imagine living in a city that judges people on stuff like that. And when I was raising my kids, I said, I'm straight, your dad's straight, but you might be gay. We don't know yet. If you are, you tell me. You talk to me about it. We'll figure it all out together. I think she misunderstood. You said gluten-free. Oh, gluten-free, girlfriend. See, I said, you're probably laughing at me. Yeah, I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. And don't judge me. It just works for me. It's not for everybody. Okay. Gluten-free is what I meant. Yeah, girlfriend. Yeah, I didn't know what you meant by that. Because lots of people do have girlfriends and boyfriends. I just thought that's funny. Because I knew I had it wrong, but I wasn't. I thought I'd throw it out there anyway, because I have no dignity. Yeah, by the way, if anyone, the vegans have got a really bad rap, and this is really good with your kids too, to teach them this, is you do you and you let other people do them. It's insecurity that brings out that, well, you should do it my way, the highway. That's insecurity. That's because you're not confident in who you are. You feel like you have to bring other people into doing, okay, well, validate that what I'm doing is right by doing what I'm doing. If anyone tells you you should go vegan, just tell them to shut up. Vegans get a bad rap for being like that, this holier than thou. I'm nothing like that. It just works for me. Anyway, but I always told my kids that you do you and you don't judge other people for doing them. As long as you're not hurting anyone, no one's getting hurt. We're all different. And that's great. That's what makes us interesting, right? You know what I really enjoy is because I work with people all over the world, different cultures, Egypt, India, Africa, wherever. Scotland, wherever I'm working with someone, some of the cultures have very strong religious beliefs. And they don't always agree with what I'm saying. Like sometimes the male will not be on that behavior board because they just can't be. And I have to work around that. And I love that because I don't think that my way works great, but it can also be adapted to other cultures. But we have to work really hard to do that because it is different. So I have to respect that. I don't tell them to do what goes against their culture. That would be disrespectful, right? But that's part of the job I love, is trying to work around different cultures. And some of them very highly religious beliefs, and we have to work with that too. And but yeah, I've learned so much about other cultures through coaching. Very lucky. Okay, parenting questions. Yeah, no judgment. Yeah, what's the point? It just makes you look bad. If you're judging other people for them being them, just makes you look bad. Okay. Oops, I've been on for 55 minutes now. So I'm gonna have to get going soon. But anyway, what I'll do is I'll do my outro. My website, gee, the light just hit me bad. I'm also filming on YouTube these days, so these are permanently saved because my audience is on TikTok. I'm growing on Instagram now too. My daughter manages that. She's in social media. And but yeah, I don't really understand Instagram, but then I don't understand TikTok either. So, but anyway, my website is bratbusters.com. If you want to hire me, you can do it on there. If you want to buy one of my courses, you can do it on there. But if you want free something for free, my behavior board, it's all free. It's a full course. It's completely free. It teaches you how to give respect to get it because you're on there too. If you're not accountable, how can you expect your kids to be? They're not listening to you. They're watching you. And when you're on that behavior board, it's just the ultimate in showing respect. Do you work with parents with infants? Absolutely. I work with parents who, non-parents who are thinking about having kids to set you up for parenting. It's more about what's going to happen down the road. Because infants are just go with it. A lot of my advice is just go with it. You're going to turn up with baby poop on your forehead like I did one day. I mean, it's just messy with a newborn. It's just messy. Don't get too caught up in milestones. If there's real red flag out there, then yes, but milestones are just like, that's all they are. They're just sort of a generality. So don't get too caught up in that. But yeah, I deal with parents of kids of all ages. My specialty was always troubled teens, but I've kind of pulled away from that. And because that's really all I was doing for a long time. Because what happens is when you specialize in something, then people refer you, teachers and that in schools were referring me. So I just got kind of pigeonholed into teen crisis work. And then I realized I really want to prevent this. So I branched out. I tried to branch out more. And that's why I'm on TikTok, is to avoid the teen crisis. So I still work with that, but I want to avoid that, right? I want to set you up so that doesn't happen. Okay, so any advice on getting a 7-month-old sleep on their own? You're not going to like this. It's that, what do they call it? Sleep training? I don't know what they call it. It's called something. I'll tell you what I did with my son. He was probably about 9 months old, 9 months old, I guess. He used to wake up in the middle of the night and his feeds were like this. Like I was breastfeeding. He'd be looking at, and then he'd look around like he obviously wasn't hungry. And anyway, so I thought I'm just going to do it. And I put him to bed and I gave him a kiss, made sure he was dry, fed, put him to bed. And then when he woke up, I went in there and I said, "You're okay." I rubbed his back for a while. Well, he was just so confused because I didn't pick him up. And I said, "You're okay." And then I went out of the room and I closed the door and I let him cry it out. And what did I do? I had a pillow and I sobbed into the pillow, just sobbing, listening to my baby cry. Because I don't like to let babies cry. So it worked. He only did it that one night. He didn't get up again. Like, I think he got up a couple, but then he went right back to sleep really easily. So yeah, it was ugly, but it worked. I chose to not be getting up in the middle of the night always. And that's what I did. So yeah, I don't like it. But anyway, that's all I did. And it worked. Ugh. Okay, I got to get going. Thanks so much for joining me. And I was going to say something else too. Yeah, I'm going to read this again just because I wrote it down yesterday. I was watching something and it was a young man talking about his life. And he said he had a really great childhood. He was very close to his parents, really admired them. And they said, "Did you ever get in trouble?" And he said, "I never did anything wrong because I was happy." How interesting. I couldn't wait. I had to run over here and write that down. I never did anything wrong because I was happy. There's something to be said for that. That's kind of what I teach. If you've got happy kids and they admire you and you admire them. There's mutual respect. They don't do anything wrong. They just don't. People used to say to me all the time, God, you're so lucky you got such easy kids. And I thought, I put some work into that. Like, they were happy kids and we had a really close relationship. So they didn't do anything wrong. Were we perfect? God, no. Who'd want to be perfect? How boring. But yeah, I think I did a pretty decent job at that. So yeah, I never did anything wrong because I was happy. Children who are not close to, or not, don't feel respected and unhappy tend to act out. I've never seen a happy kid act out. So anyway, gotta go. Thanks so much, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye now.